Some of the best modern films and shows explore identity. If you're anything like me, you'll have probably noticed a trend of films and streaming shows that are progressive in identity projection, but oddly morally empty. Think Emilia Perez, The Acolyte, Ironheart. These works weirdly center on characters who behave shittily, and yet are showcased and marketed, bafflingly, as heroes.
He's out of line, but he's right.
Well, no. All we ever care about is good storytelling, and we don't like second-rate slop entertainment written by identity junkies. The difference is storytelling integrity. Does the film earn its insights or just shovel them in?
I'm disappointed in your species.
At root, these stories often reflect a morally relativist worldview born from resentment, filtered through postmodern narrative structures, and decorated with progressive identity politics. A culture that wants to affirm identity, but has lost faith in shared ethics.
This is fine. I'm okay with the events that are unfolding currently.
In Ironheart, Riri Williams, who has an all-expenses-paid scholarship to MIT, somehow squanders all her opportunities, breaks the ethical code by selling academic work to other students, and then joins a criminal gang to make money for her own self-aggrandizement and prestige in making an Iron Man suit. In Emilia Perez, the former cartel leader undergoes gender reassignment and reinvents herself, but the moral trajectory is confused. The redemption arc overlaps uncomfortably with the legacy of violence, and there's little appetite for genuine accountability. In The Acolyte, a coven of lesbian space witches try to live their lives, only for one of their ambiguously fertilized and birthed young twins to be separated by morally dubious Jedi, and then for one of the grown-up kids to fall in love with a psychopathic stranger who had earlier killed her friends and then go stone-faced and force-choke her mentor to death. One underpinning is what we might call the trauma theory of identity, that systemic oppression and marginalization don't just condition life outcomes, they shape inner morality. In this framing, characters like Riri Williams or Emilia Perez's ethical violations are reframed as understandable, even sympathetic. To subvert these norms doesn't therefore have to be bad. There is a horrible moral displacement. In this logic, who you are matters more than what you do. If your identity is marked as historically marginalized, then the narrative arc doesn't need to prove virtue through action. Riri Williams doesn't need to use her genius ethically to be good. Her genius exists in spite of the system. That fact alone can be treated as morally redemptive, slapping back even if she teams up with a bunch of criminals. This, of course, is a gross and weak abandoning of the idea of a moral compass, of innate values, and a refusal to let your circumstances dictate your behavior or skew your integrity.
It really puts perspective on things, though, doesn't it?
Not too much. There's too much fucking perspective now.
There's also an aesthetic layer, a kind of fashionable grimness. In these newer identity-driven narratives, moral ambiguity isn't used to interrogate the self. It's used to accessorize the self. It's a vibe. These characters are often written to be cool, edgy, or unapologetic. There may also be a deeper, narcissistic investment in identity itself as a form of prestige or moral high ground. In this reading, a character's identitarian life becomes a kind of permanent rebuttal to the surrounding world. Therefore, their choices need not be judged by conventional standards. Identity becomes its own moral currency. To transgress is not to sin, but to reject an imposed morality that was never yours to begin with. If the system is rigged and irredeemable, if it isn't a level playing field, then morality itself becomes suspect. So do some dodgy shit or whatever.
Oh, I've been internalizing a really complicated situation in my head.
This, of course, is also a garbage outlook, because while temptation and wrestling and the threat of resentment brimming and spilling over is a real proposition for too many people, there are multiple better ways to contest the system, through public service, creative expression and music, and on the screen, and in the John Lewis formulation of getting into good trouble. So let's look at some contrasts in how identity can be explored on screen. Get Out is not simply a horror film with racial themes, but a savvy indictment of liberal hypocrisy disguised in civility. It builds its commentary of race relations in America into the architecture of the plot, where the polite, progressive white family are not malevolent in the overt, backwoods racist sense, but are exploitative in a way that is far more insidious. They admire blackness, even as they appropriate and hollow it out. Jordan Peele marries genre elements of body horror, thriller, and surrealism to thematic depth. Everything from the use of silence to the claustrophobic camera work supports the central anxiety. Being seen not as a person, but as a body, as a vessel for someone else's narrative. Get Out doesn't shout its ideas at you, it lures you in, like the Armitages do, with charm and familiarity, and then reveals the deeper rot. It's a rare example of a mainstream success that manages to be politically biting, dramatically compelling, and wholly original. Or you could just watch Ironheart, a show containing plot armor, socio-cultural armor, and literal armor in a toe-curling trifecta, which relies on hand-me-down iconography. Characters are archetypes of messaging, not people. Identity is a checkbox exercise. Riri Williams makes a succession of morally shitty decisions, and the show, supposed to be an affirming, stylish, identity-driven exercise, ends up as a ratings calamity and moral cesspool, and its failure must really be down to review bombing, or reactionaries, or it being ahead of its time, or whatever. Anyway, you're to blame somehow. Or you could watch Velma, a sweet old IP desecrating and shittily discombobulating identity farce used not for empathy or insight, but as a cynical shield for lazy writing and mean-spirited commentary, and which drowns in its own self-referential retarded disdain, uses identity politics as cudgel and gimmick, with a meta approach that comes off as snaring and self-loathing, failing both the source material and its new themes by being performatively edgy without any emotional anchor. Moonlight is a work of stunning emotional precision, a film that speaks in glances and silences as much as dialogue. What sets it apart as a treatment of identity is its quiet refusal to reduce its protagonist, Chiron, to a symbol. Black, poor, and gay, Chiron isn't a case study in intersectionality. He is a living, breathing character, shaped by circumstance, but not defined solely by it. The film's triptych structure, showing Chiron as a child, a teenager, and then a hardened adult, allows Jenkins to explore the tension between internal identity and external performance. What does it mean to grow up in a world that punishes softness in black men? How do you protect your sense of self in such a world? Jenkins answers these questions not with thesis statements, but with the gentle sway of the camera, the bath of blue light, the halting cadences of conversation. Moonlight doesn't posture, it listens, and in doing so, it gives dignity to a type of experience that cinema has rarely been willing to observe with such tenderness. Or you could just watch The Society of Magical Negroes, which follows a young black man who is inducted into a secret organization of black people whose job is to use charm, de-escalation, and self-effacement to make white people feel comfortable, thereby maintaining social harmony. The film frames this as a satirical critique of racial dynamics, but its satire sucks, neither sharp enough to provoke thought nor funny enough to entertain, leaving it stranded in an uncanny zone of smug irony, offers no meaningful alternative to the stereotype it critiques, replacing nuance with quirk and moral clarity with self-conscious detachment, and appeals to no one. Too glib for those seeking depth, too self-congratulatory for those craving subversion, and too soft for audiences who expect satire to bite, and just coming across as modern bollocks with no cultural impact and somehow no balls. The Substance offers an extreme and confrontational take on identity that is thematically rich, blending body horror, social satire, and feminist allegory. The film centers on a middle-aged actress who undergoes a grotesque cosmetic transformation through an experimental procedure, a literal shedding of her physical self. What sets The Substance apart is its willingness to plunge deep into the horror of feminine self-erasure. It doesn't just acknowledge the pressures placed on women to conform to ideals of youth, desirability, and public image. It embodies them, graphically and viscerally. The horror elements aren't just stylistic flourishes. They're the natural extension of a system that devours female autonomy in the name of empowerment. It uses genre as a scalpel to dissect societal obsession with the body. The film is bold, enraged, and at times even camp. but beneath its blood-soaked visuals are clear and disturbing questions. Or fuck it, chuck on She-Hulk, Attorney at Law, shallow empowerment by committee, its gender politics are TikTok deep and it dodges dramatic engagement in favor of snarky fourth-wall winks, smug self-awareness, and strawman villains. Identity is treated like a meme template, ready to post, shallowly drawn, and gone the next day. And remember, don't lecture her about controlling her anger because she does it infinitely more than you, and if the show's tanking, just do some clumsy fuck you to the haters at the end, trolling the trolls, get it? It's cool because it's reacting to your legitimate disdain. While Dallas Buyers Club is nominally about the libertarian hustle of Ron Woodruff, a straight rodeo-riding electrician given a death sentence by an AIDS diagnosis, its emotional core resides in the character of Rayon, a trans woman living with HIV whose presence gradually cracks Woodruff's macho bluster and exposes the deeper moral terrain of the story. Rayon is not framed as a political statement or sociological lesson. She's funny, tragic, wounded, and resilient. And crucially, she is allowed to be fully human. Her femininity isn't exaggerated into parody, nor is her transness reduced to a single-note source of trauma or inspiration. The film finds extraordinary pathos in the small gestures, the way Rayon dresses for dignity, her moments of maternal care towards Ron, the unbearable pain in her eyes during a visit with her disapproving father. The character is drawn with enough specificity to avoid tokenism, and her relationship with Ron transcends the predictable arc of bigot learns tolerance. It becomes something messier and more truthful, a reluctant alliance, grounded in shared vulnerability. Dallas Buyers Club succeeds in giving identity-based storytelling emotional heft because it doesn't isolate Rayon as other. It allows her interior life to unfold within the same moral frame as every other character. That's what makes her fate all the more devastating and meaningful. But Emilia Perez is also supposed to be about trans stuff, automatically elevating it to some kind of profound elevated status, automatically lending it some kind of gravitas and sense of meeting the moment, right? Never mind that it's a tonal grab bag of gender politics garbage, crime opera, and pop musical. A confused and garish visual and audio nightmare, where identity themes are rendered as surreal spectacle rather than human drama, and the penis to vagina song will haunt our collective memories and be a worse imposition upon our collective musical sensibilities since that time U2 shoved their dreary new album onto everyone's playlist without asking. And now that stupid fucking dogshit song is rattling around my head, and I need to go off and listen to literally anything else to purge it from my psyche. By the way, just before I go, you can now find me over on Substack, where, in addition to my spluttering ramblings on popular culture, you can also find a plethora of articles on politics, society, and the wider world. But don't worry, my signature tone of disagreeable, curmudgeonly cynicism, with occasional bright spots of misguided optimism, perhaps because I was born foolish, abides there as well. If you think you'd like to sign up for a free subscription, it would really help out a lot. The link is in the description.